Every year, thousands of people land in the ER from medicines they thought were safe. The danger isn't just what you take, it's how these drugs break down in storage. In a blackout or supply chain collapse, the wrong pill at the wrong time won't just fail you. It can trigger infections, organ damage, or even shut your body down when help is days away. Today, we're exposing 7 common medicines that turn dangerous in crisis conditions, and the 2 that can keep you alive when pharmacies are empty. Stay with me until number 1. This natural remedy has been saving lives for over 3,000 years. Let's start with the medication that spoils faster than milk, and it's probably half used in your cabinet right now. Number 7. Liquid medications. Most people assume that medications simply lose strength as they age, but with certain formulations, the truth is far more dangerous. Liquids, in particular, are highly unstable once opened. Exposure to air and moisture causes their active ingredients to degrade rapidly, breaking down into harmful byproducts. At the same time, the sugary syrup base becomes an ideal environment for bacteria to multiply. That innocent-looking bottle of cherry-flavored cough syrup doesn't just stop working after a few months, it can become toxic. Signs of spoilage are often obvious if you know what to look for. A change in color, the appearance of separation, or a sour or unusual smell all signal bacterial growth. At that point, the medicine is no longer safe to use. Unfortunately, many people don't realize how quickly this happens and continue dosing themselves or their children with liquids that should have been discarded long ago. What seems like a helpful remedy may actually be introducing harmful compounds and live bacteria directly into the body. To prevent this, every open liquid should be dated with a permanent marker the first time the seal is broken. If more than 6 months have passed, the safest choice is immediate disposal, pouring it down the drain and rinsing the bottle thoroughly. Unlike tablets or capsules, which can remain stable for years, liquids have a much shorter window of safety. By switching to solid formulations of the same medications, you not only gain convenience, but also eliminate most contamination risks. The hidden danger is how deceptively common this problem is. Many parents keep half-used bottles of children's pain relievers or fever reducers for 1 or 2 years, unaware that they may be giving their kids substances that are closer to poison than medicine. Pharmaceutical companies rarely emphasize this risk, yet it's well known in pharmacology. Virtually every liquid drug has a tablet or capsule equivalent with a shelf life 10 times longer. In normal times, spoiled medicine is an inconvenience, but during supply shortages, disasters, or emergencies, the stakes are even higher. Depending on degraded liquids not only risk ineffective treatment, but can also lead to infections requiring antibiotics, which may not be available. Choosing tablets whenever possible ensures both safety and longevity, turning a fragile 6-month supply into a stable reserve you can truly rely on. Number 6. Insulin and refrigerated medications. For people with diabetes, few realities are more dangerous than losing refrigeration. Insulin, unlike most medications, is a fragile protein that begins to denature within hours when exposed to warm temperatures. Once its molecular structure unravels, it can no longer regulate blood sugar. The tragedy is that spoiled insulin often looks perfectly normal. A clear vial or pen may still appear usable, but the life-saving effect is gone. Injecting dead insulin during a diabetic crisis isn't just ineffective. It can drive blood sugar into lethal territory. The timeline is shockingly short. After about 28 hours outside refrigeration, insulin should be considered useless, even if there are no visible changes. Sometimes clues appear, clumping, crystals, or discoloration, but by the time you notice them, the medication has long since lost potency. Using it is no different than injecting water. That's why reliable cooling solutions are not optional. They are survival essentials. Insulated cases with ice packs, evaporative clay pots, underground storage, or backup power sources can extend viability when the grid goes down. And this problem isn't limited to insulin. Other refrigerated medications, including growth hormones, certain antibiotics, and modern biologics, share the same vulnerability. Their potency disappears silently, with no obvious external sign. Families often ration what they think is precious medicine during outages, carefully injecting or swallowing doses that, in reality, have no therapeutic value. Blood sugar rises, infections rage, or hormonal crises unfold, all while patients believe they are doing everything right. That's why emergency planning for anyone dependent on refrigerated medications must begin with power generation and cooling, not food storage. Most people can survive several days with little food. But for someone with type 1 diabetes, 3 days without effective insulin can be fatal. A stockpile of canned goods won't save a life if the insulin in the fridge has silently died. In any crisis scenario, insulin is more than a medication. It is the thin line between survival and catastrophe. Protecting it should be the first priority. Number 5. Combination pain relievers. These medications may look convenient on the pharmacy shelf, but they carry hidden risks that can become deadly under stress. Products that blend acetaminophen, aspirin, and caffeine overload the liver far faster than single-ingredient alternatives. Each compound must be metabolized through different pathways, and when they arrive at the same time, the liver's detox capacity becomes overwhelmed. In crisis situations where dehydration, stress, and exhaustion are already straining the body, this overload accelerates into rapid, irreversible liver damage. The warning signs are easy to miss until it's too late. Nausea, yellowing of the skin or eyes, and unusually dark urine all point to the liver shutting down. Under normal circumstances, someone could get emergency care. But in an emergency, when hospitals are inaccessible, those early warning signs may go untreated and permanent damage becomes inevitable. Marketing makes combination pain relievers sound like a smart choice. One pill to cover multiple symptoms. In reality, the all-in-one approach limits your control. Each extra ingredient increases the toxic burden on the liver, while denying you the ability to tailor doses to your actual needs. With single-ingredient medications, you can take acetaminophen for fever, aspirin for inflammation, or caffeine for alertness, each at the right dose, without stacking unnecessary risks. The safest strategy is preparation. Replace every combination product in your medicine cabinet with single-ingredient alternatives. Stock acetaminophen, aspirin, and caffeine separately, clearly labeled, and store them in a way that lets you adjust doses as needed. By separating the ingredients, you protect your liver while still maintaining flexibility in treatment. Convenience is tempting, especially when a single pill promises quick relief. But during emergencies, convenience can cost you the very organ that keeps toxins from building up in your body. Choosing single-ingredient medications today ensures your liver will still be working tomorrow, when you may need it most. Want to catch the rest of this list and more survival medicine tips? Subscribe now so you never miss the warnings that could save your life. Number 4. Expired antibiotics. When antibiotics expire, they don't just lose potency. They create antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections that become impossible to treat with any medication. As antibiotics degrade, they maintain just enough activity to pressure bacteria without killing them completely. This creates the perfect environment for resistance genes to develop and spread. You end up with superbugs that laugh at every antibiotic you might find later. If an infection gets worse after 3 days of antibiotic treatment, especially with expired drugs, you've likely created a resistant strain that won't respond to any treatment. Never save leftover antibiotics, and never use antibiotics past their expiration date, even by a single day. Using only fresh, properly dosed antibiotics prevents the creation of resistant infections that could spread to your entire group. This is where good intentions create devastating consequences. People stockpile leftover antibiotics, thinking they're being prepared, but they're actually building biological weapons that could wipe out their community. I know a family that saved half-finished antibiotic courses from every minor infection for 2 years. They thought they were building a pharmacy for emergencies. When a serious wound infection hit during a winter storm, they used their expired stockpile and turned a treatable infection into a resistant nightmare that nearly killed the patient. But here's the truly terrifying part. Those resistant bacteria don't stay contained to one person. They spread through close contact, contaminated surfaces, and shared living spaces. Using expired antibiotics during a crisis doesn't just endanger the person taking them. It puts everyone in the group at risk of untreatable infections. The only safe approach with antibiotics is using them exactly as prescribed, finishing every course completely and throwing away anything that's expired or left over. Your emergency medical plan should focus on prevention and wound care, not stockpiling degraded antibiotics that create more problems than they solve. Number 3. Heart medications and blood thinners. These medications become unpredictably dangerous when they degrade, creating sudden cardiac events or massive bleeding when you're far from help. These medications work within extremely narrow therapeutic windows. As they break down, the dosage becomes impossible to predict. Blood thinners might suddenly thin your blood too much, causing internal bleeding, or they might stop working entirely, triggering dangerous clots. If you experience unusual bruising, bleeding gums, chest pain, or sudden weakness while taking degraded heart medications, you're facing a life-threatening emergency. These medications must be stored in climate-controlled environments and replaced exactly at expiration. Never extend their use even during emergencies. Having properly stored, fresh cardiac medications means maintaining heart health when medical intervention is impossible. Blood thinners are particularly vicious because they fail in both directions. Too much activity and you hemorrhage from minor injuries. Too little activity and blood clots form in your heart, lungs, or brain. There's no middle ground, no gradual warning signs, just sudden catastrophic failure. I've researched cases where people ration heart medications during supply disruptions, stretching pills by cutting doses or extending intervals. The cardiac events that followed were swift and brutal. Hearts that had been stable for years suddenly went into dangerous rhythms. Blood clots formed overnight in people who had been perfectly managed on their medications. What makes this worse is how these emergencies present. Heart attacks and strokes look the same whether they're caused by natural progression or medication failure. But when they're triggered by degraded drugs, they often resist standard emergency treatments because the underlying medication is still interfering with normal physiology. If you depend on heart medications or blood thinners, your emergency preparedness must prioritize pharmaceutical supply above everything else. These aren't medications you can substitute, stretch, or skip. They're binary life support systems that either work perfectly or kill you quickly. Number 2. Sublingual medications. Medications that dissolve under the tongue are designed to bypass the digestive system and absorb directly into the bloodstream through the thin tissue beneath the tongue. However, once opened, the tablets gradually lose effectiveness. Humidity and repeated saliva exposure break down the active ingredients into inactive compounds, leaving them able to dissolve but without delivering therapeutic benefit. If sublingual tablets don't cause the expected tingling sensation under your tongue, or if chest pain doesn't subside within 3 minutes of taking nitroglycerin, the medication has degraded and you're facing a true emergency without effective treatment. Keep sublingual medications in their original dark glass bottles with tight caps, and replace them every 3 months after opening, regardless of expiration dates. Fresh sublingual medications provide life-saving relief within seconds, while degraded ones leave you defenseless against cardiac emergencies. Sublingual medications represent the most critical drugs in emergency medicine because they work faster than any other delivery method. Nitroglycerin for chest pain, certain anxiety medications for panic attacks, and emergency allergy treatments all rely on immediate absorption under the tongue. But this speed advantage disappears completely once the medication degrades. People experiencing chest pain pop what they think is life-saving nitroglycerin, not realizing they're basically eating candy while their heart muscle dies from lack of oxygen. The tragedy of degraded sublingual medications is how they fail silently. Pills look normal, dissolve normally, even taste similar to fresh tablets. The person thinks they've taken their life-saving medication and waits for relief that never comes. Meanwhile, precious minutes tick by during cardiac events where every second determines how much heart muscle survives. During emergencies when ambulances can't reach you, when hospitals are overwhelmed, when you're completely on your own, that's when sublingual medications become your only lifeline. Having degraded versions is worse than having nothing because at least with nothing you'd seek alternative help immediately. Number 1. Eye drops and nasal sprays. Once opened, eye drops and nasal sprays can quickly turn into a perfect environment for bacterial growth. With no preservative system strong enough to stop repeated contamination from contact with your eyes, nose, or hands, every use introduces new microbes that multiply rapidly. Eye drops and nasal sprays are especially risky. Within days, they can harbor millions of dangerous bacteria, and using them may lead to severe infections, including blindness or even fatal brain infections within hours. If you experience increased redness, discharge, or pain after using eye drops, or if nasal sprays cause burning and thick drainage, you're already fighting a serious infection that's spreading toward your brain. Single-use vials are the only safe option for eye medications, and nasal sprays must be discarded after 7 days regardless of how much is left. Contaminated eye and nasal medications create direct pathways for bacteria to reach your brain through thin membranes and nerve channels that bypass your body's normal immune defenses. The anatomy of your face creates the perfect storm for these infections. Your tear ducts connect directly to your nasal passages. Your nasal passages connect to your sinuses. And your sinuses have direct channels to your brain through paper-thin bone barriers. Contaminated drops don't just cause local infections. They create superhighways for bacteria to reach your central nervous system. The cruel irony is that people typically reach for these medications when they're already fighting infections or allergies, meaning their local defenses are compromised. Using contaminated eye drops when your eyes are already irritated, or contaminated nasal spray when your sinuses are already inflamed, is like pouring gasoline on a fire. Now that we've cleared out the medical landmines from your cabinet, let's talk about the 2 medications that could actually save your life when everything else fails. These aren't just effective, they're virtually indestructible and will work decades from now when every pharmaceutical factory has shut down. Number 2. Activated charcoal. When taken quickly, a single dose can neutralize most poisonings within 30 minutes, making it one of the most reliable emergency antidotes. Its effectiveness comes from its sorption, the process by which its enormous surface area binds toxins in the digestive tract before they can enter the bloodstream. Remarkably, just 1 gram has the surface area of a football field, providing millions of binding sites for poisons. And when stored properly, it remains stable for decades. Never use activated charcoal for corrosive poisonings like bleach or acids, as it won't help and could make internal burns worse by masking symptoms. Keep pharmaceutical-grade activated charcoal in original sealed containers away from moisture, and it maintains full potency for over 20 years. Having activated charcoal ready means you can counteract accidental poisonings, drug overdoses, and food poisoning when hospitals are unreachable. Activated charcoal is the emergency medication that hospital emergency rooms reach for first during poisoning cases because it's both incredibly effective and remarkably safe. Unlike most emergency drugs that require precise dosing and careful monitoring, activated charcoal works through simple physics rather than complex biochemistry. During crisis situations, accidental poisonings become exponentially more dangerous because professional medical help disappears. Someone mistakes cleaning chemicals for something safe, children get into medications, or contaminated food causes severe toxicity. In normal times, these scenarios mean emergency room visits and stomach pumping. During emergencies, they mean death unless you can neutralize the poison quickly. The key is acting fast. Activated charcoal works best within the first hour after ingestion, though it can help even later. Every minute matters because once toxins enter your bloodstream, charcoal can't pull them back out. But you need pharmaceutical-grade activated charcoal, not barbecue charcoal or art supplies. The medical version is specially processed to maximize surface area and eliminate contaminants. Having the wrong type during a poisoning emergency is like having no treatment at all. Number 1. Honey. Medical grade. Honey used in medicine is more than a natural sweetener. It's a powerful healer. It kills germs by making the environment too acidic, drying bacteria out, and releasing a steady stream of natural antiseptic. Unlike antibiotics, which bacteria can outsmart, honey works in so many ways that resistance never develops. That's why it can speed up wound healing, fight superbugs, and last forever without expiring. Medical-grade honey stays potent indefinitely when stored in sealed containers, and even crystallized honey maintains full antimicrobial properties. This is the medication that has literally saved more lives throughout human history than any pharmaceutical ever developed, and it's the only medicine that will still work perfectly 1,000 years from now. Archaeological expeditions have found honey in Egyptian tombs that's over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. That honey could treat infections today as effectively as it did when the pyramids were built. No antibiotic, no modern drug, no pharmaceutical advancement can make that claim. But medical-grade honey isn't just about longevity. It's about effectiveness that surpasses modern medicine. Hospitals now use honey dressings for wounds that don't heal with standard treatments, for burns that resist conventional care, and for infections that laugh at the strongest antibiotics. During crisis situations, when antibiotics are unavailable or have lost effectiveness, when wound infections could mean death from sepsis, when burns and cuts become life-threatening without proper care, medical-grade honey becomes your pharmaceutical factory that never runs out of supplies. But once you have authentic medical-grade honey, you possess medicine that's more reliable than any pharmaceutical, more effective than many antibiotics, and completely immune to supply chain disruptions or expiration dates. Today, we broke down the 7 medications that could turn dangerous in a crisis, and the 2 timeless remedies that can save lives when hospitals are out of reach. By knowing what works and what to avoid, you're not just surviving, you're building real resilience for your family. But medicine is only half the battle. The food in your pantry could be your greatest asset, or your biggest threat. Some grocery staples actually spoil faster than you think, while others can last for decades. So stick with me. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Because next we're exposing 7 grocery items to avoid at all costs, and 2 that will help you survive the next crisis.